The Reappearance of Sherlock Holmes by Roy L. McCardell. Note: Dr. Conan Doyle claims that, having let his great detective fall over an abyss, he cannot see how he can make him reappear again alive and well. The present writer, in the following tale, kindly helps the Doctor out of his difficulties. After that awful, unseen tragedy at the Falls of Reichenbach, when my friend had gone over that sheer and horrid precipice, clasped in a death struggle with Moriarty, as the traces of that awful combat showed too well, I returned to England a broken man. The dreadful death of Sherlock Holmes preyed upon my mind so much that, in the following spring, I gave up the room in Baker Street and sailed for New York. Here, I hung out in my shingle, hoping that the change of scene and the newer faces and occupations would drive from my memory that awful scene of the death struggle ever in my mental eye. In some slight measure I was successful. That is, I had gotten so that I could review the whole thing calmly and still cherish that faint, trembling hope that Holmes was not dead. I was sitting in my office one summer afternoon, turning the matter over in my mind. The image of my friend, discreet, cautious, resourceful, rose before me. Unconsciously, I spoke aloud. Suppose, after all, Holmes was not killed? Well, let us suppose it. As the words in answer to mine rang out, I sprang, faint with fright, to my feet and clutched my study table for support, for before me stood Sherlock Holmes in the flesh. You? I gasped, but could say no more. Yes, Watson, it was the same careless yet incisive voice of old. It is. Have a cigar. And my friend coolly sat down and pushed his pocket case towards me. But, the falls at Reichenbach, man, I stammered. Watson, Holmes looked at me calmly. I'll admit that the circumstances did look as though I'd gone over that dizzy height, into the boiling torrent below, in the company of our extremely versatile friend, Professor Moriarty. And so I did. But Watson, how often have I told you to deduce? Here, Holmes bit off the end of his cigar. But you said that you and he went over. How? Holmes broke in. Watson, am I not a man of resources? I nodded. Well, you remember I wore a cloak when you last saw me? Yes, but now don't interrupt. I had been expecting that meeting with the Professor. I had a portable parachute under the cloak. After we fell over the cliff in our struggle, we let go of our holds, and I opened the parachute and drifted down. And the Professor was dashed to death? I asked eagerly. No. Holmes flicked the ash from his cigar. The Professor is also a man of resources. He had a parachute too. I was too much surprised to speak, and Holmes continued. The long and short of it is that we struck the water safely, and in the boiling mist, I lost the Professor. I swam down the torrent to the next canton, and after a few days' rest, resumed my search for Moriarty. But, again, he had been too much for me. I had the pleasure, some weeks after, to read the very nice notices of my life, deeds and deaths in the English papers. For once, the jealousy of Scotland Yard was abated, and I eat my due measure of praise. De mortis nil nisi bonum, you know. So, I thought I would let them think me dead, but Moriarty knew better and fled to America. He is here, somewhere in New York, now. But he, the arch-plotter, the head and the brains of organised, educated crime, cannot escape me. His capture is but a question of time. and I shall have him. But how? I asked, for the old calm, confident manner of Holmes, his old self sitting there, had almost brought me to the belief that his struggles and disappearance were as a dream. Holmes looked at me calmly. Yes, he said, he cannot escape me. I shall stand in the corner of the boulevard in 66th Street and catch him when he comes by on a bicycle. The end. I hope you enjoyed that. I certainly did. And it's nice to think that in the middle of the hiatus, there was just so many writers writing stories about Holmes, wishing him back, and just praying for the day that Conan Doyle picked up that pen again. And he did. Lucky them. And till next episode, bye-bye.